Watch and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I am discussing, I believe, the 1997 movie, The Game, starring Michael Douglas and Sean Penn. And the main reason that I wanted to discuss this movie was because this is one of those movies that I've been like obsessed with since I was a kid. And this is David Fincher when he was like completely on fire. This is right in and around Seven and Fight Club, of course. So this is when David Fincher could really do no wrong. And even though I don't really love Fincher's stuff anymore, I still really respect what he's doing. Like, I couldn't really get into The Killer, for example, but it was a really well-made movie. I just wasn't able to sort of latch onto it like I was like Fight Club or Seven or this. But I found that his newer movies, like, it seemed to be, things got a little messy with him right around the remake of the Girl with the, what the hell was it again? Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? Oh, for Christ's sakes. Reznor and Ross do the score for it. Ah, now I can't remember that. It doesn't matter. This is when David Fincher was on fire. Why am I even talking about things if I can't remember what they are? I'm doing that because I like to ramble. But nevertheless, I think one of my favorite things about this movie was that I'd seen the movie like a dozen or so times before I realized that Michael Douglas had no say. When he meets Connie, in the restaurant, like Sean Penn's character, at the very beginning, just before Conrad gives him the invitation to go to the CRS offices and have the physical done and everything. No, it's already set up. The blonde chick there that sort of guides him for the rest of the movie, whose name I can't remember, she's the waitress that spills something low-key that you don't even notice that would later become a very significant part of the movie that would allow the whole CRS thing to happen, is she spills water on Michael Douglas directly, which leads to her getting fired, which then leads to him getting the note from that dude who gives him the bill at the end of the movie saying, don't lose her. And he has no idea. Like, he's getting together with his brother, his estranged brother, Conrad. And now the Van Orton family are exceedingly wealthy. And I don't exactly know what Sean Penn's character does for cash, because I know, or at least we're led to believe, that he had a number of drug problems and whatnot. And he attended a number of colleges. So he sounds like he kind of went off the rails somewhat. Whereas Michael Douglas, Nick Van Orton, he has amassed a considerable fortune. He's sitting on, I think, 600 million plus. And all he does is work 24/7. Much like all I'm doing is getting eaten alive. I was originally going to do it down there. It was really, really fun. You probably can't see anything. At the end there, beyond the lights and the basketball courts, there's this fun sort of outdoor classroom thing comprised of rocks, and I was going to sit on those, but then with all the shit in my hair and the fact that mosquitoes love my blood type, I was literally getting eaten alive back there, so I had to come up here where I'm still low-key being eaten alive. That has nothing to do with the movie. Where was I? Yes, he has amassed a massive fortune. But all he does is work, and he doesn't seem to understand what fun is. Conrad even points that out at the start of the movie. And yeah, he doesn't have a choice. So he goes to the CRS offices, and he goes through the ridiculously long sort of vetting process, only to find out that he's been denied, and they don't want him. But then when he goes home, he finds that creepy doll, like the thing from the Nutcracker looking thing out front of his house that's watching everything he does. And then the news dude, the stock guy, the financial report dude, like the guy that Michael Douglas watches every night, he comes to life and he says, okay, listen, bud, this is your game. Wake up. It's time for you to start to figure some things out. And the whole time, okay, I already did a video about this as well. I don't know if it's out yet by the time this sees the light of day. It'll be sometime in 2025, so I don't know. But I already did a video discussing, like, how much did Sean Penn, like, how much did Conrad pay to set up his brother in the game? Because, I mean, if you look at everything that happens to him, CRS, they low-key kidnap him in a taxi, then the taxi driver drives him into a body of water, which I think is the ocean, maybe, and he's left down there, but he figures it out because a couple days prior he received a package that had like a handle for the inside of a car door in it. So he puts that in it and he manages to escape. But then when we find out, when everything's said and done with, and the game is just a game, that apparently there were divers down there. And he was safe the whole time. And I'm thinking to myself, like, my God, they clear out that hospital at the start with him and the blonde chick. She goes there after saving the guy's life who was choking to death on the street. And then the hospital, like the ER, like the lead up, I mean, the driveway, the the driveway. The parking area for the ER just clears out, and everybody just disappears. And it was a really professional looking setup. Like, I really thought it was a real emergency room at a real hospital. And I mean, the amount of actors that are paid by CRS in order to help the individual who is experiencing the game have the best possible experience, even though they don't know it at the time. I mean, it's uncanny. Like, how much money do you think Conrad spent? I mean, I'm figuring this has got to be at least a somewhat decent budgeted movie. So the CRS had to come, the bill had to come to at least $5-6 million, because at the end of the movie, again, when everything's said and done with, and Nick finds out that it's all a game, and him and Conrad are laughing about it, and then Nick says, hey, would you like some help paying for that? And Conrad's like, oh God, yes. And then Nick takes a look at the bill, and he's like, whoa. And it has to be in the middle single digit millions, like I said, 5 million, 6 million, 7 million at least to pay for this, because my God, was it elaborate. I mean, every single thing they did felt real, and everything was just so, like, I mean, Michael Douglas's character didn't stand a chance. Like, he was just done. Like, he was forced to run this gauntlet. But as us and the audience getting to watch this movie could not have been done better. This movie is so much fun. I love the way the movie's shot, because of course for the initial viewing you think it's real, and then especially when Conrad points out that, like, he had to set Nick up somewhat because this is what CRS does. They took everything from Conrad, financially speaking, and now they control every aspect of his life. And then, of course, we're led to believe that maybe Michael Douglas's character is sort of in cahoots with CRS, because Conrad finds a bunch of CRS keys in his glove box, and Conrad goes running off into the night like some kind of paranoid madman, saying, like, oh my God, you're with them. And then immediately afterwards, a payphone starts to ring. Michael Douglas picks it up, and he can hear the recording of his brother saying everything to him that he just said to him as he was trying to escape him when he thought that he was working with CRS. I mean, this movie feels about as sinister as possible. Like, you know that they're just here to take Michael Douglas's money. Like, Nick Van Orton is about to be cleaned out financially speaking, and you know that's what CRS does. And when everything is said and done with, and everything's crashing down around Michael Douglas, he ends up shooting Sean Penn. He ends up shooting his brother Conrad, and then throwing himself off the top of the building in some attempt to commit suicide. And that leads me into the other thing about this movie that I did find genuinely strange, was just how they kept signaling out to his father's suicide. And it was a really dark and sort of like a melancholy, it was filmed in a really dark and melancholy way, where, like, his father's suicide was something that really dragged the whole family down, as it would. And the footage of his father doing it, coupled with shots of his father's car driving when he's driving home, because they're attempting to make sort of the comparison to he is becoming his father, and everyone's maybe low-key concerned that he's going to end up killing himself just like his dad did. So maybe that was why they made such a strong point of pointing to his father's suicide every chance they got. But overall, I never really got the feeling that Nick Van Orton was the most suicidal. You know, I guess everybody probably said the same thing about his father too, but I did find it strange that Fincher factored that aspect so heavily into this when, like I said, personally, I never felt that Van Orton was going to kill himself at all. So showing these parallels between his father and him, I just thought it was cool. It was well done. I liked the way it looked, but it was just mildly distracting. And the first time through, you think it's building to something. Okay, well, his father's suicide has to play a part in, you know, helping us figure out the puzzle that is the game. But it doesn't really, because, you know, of course the game was just that. It was just a game. None of it was real. And so the shots of his father's suicide always just sort of left me feeling confused, mainly, especially upon every subsequent rewatch. At this point now, I'm not really confused anymore. I just completely dismiss them because I know that they don't really have any bearing on anything. So I did find it strange that they worked the suicide aspect in so seriously, when overall it really has nothing to do with anything. What else do I want to say? I think that was it. This movie is amazing. The glow-in-the-dark graffiti that they destroy his house with, my God, that was so well done. And I loved the use of Jefferson Airplane too. I thought that was amazing. This movie is awesome. But yeah, look, I'm getting out of here because the fucking mosquitoes are everywhere. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for just about 10 minutes while I discuss the 1997 movie, The Game, starring Michael Douglas and Sean Penn. Like always, if you like this review, don't forget to go out and do something nice for somebody. But most importantly, never forget that the world is a fucking way better place because you are in it. Don't ever forget that. You matter. And I'm getting out of here. Have a good night.